Do you think when Captain Picard is done having sex, he says, "Picard out"? Because I would if I was.
Say that anyway.
When I'm role playing and all that stuff. You know. So, if in case you didn't notice, I had this giant gash on the side of my face. I do own a cat. Actually, I own 2 of them, and their names are Boo Boo and Barbie. I didn't name them. I inherited them from a former landlord. And when I moved into her house, they look exactly alike. They're both tortoiseshell cats, and I couldn't tell them apart. So whenever I'd see one, I'd be like, "Oh, hey, Booby, how are you?" And then there would be 2 of them showing up, and I'd be like, "Crap. I don't only know the one name." So I was on the kitchen floor playing with the automatic cat fountain water dish, and as I do every week because I own cats, and I keep a shelf like this tall off the ground where the smaller of the cats has their food dish because there's a fat cat and a skinny cat. And as cat owners know, you have to keep the skinny cat's food up high because the fat cat will eat all the food if it doesn't. Usually Barbie is a very nimble, ninja-like cat, but today was not the occasion. So she jumps up onto that shelf, and as she struggles to hold on to that slippery shelf, she falls down and lands on my face and drags it down with her. And so I am now applying for a Purple Heart. Wounds received in battle.
Cattle.
Okay, so I live in Baltimore. I know, by choice. I'm sorry. I don't know why either. I think I have a job or something. And I like the idea of Baltimore much more than the execution. Because when I read about it, it's really cool. But I live there, and it's just, kind of a dump. But I was driving up from Baltimore, and it's like a 3-hour drive up here or something like that. I don't know. Usually I break down and somebody has to pick me up. But this time I actually made it. But I drove through Philadelphia. And a great thing about Philadelphia is whenever I'm feeling sad about what a dump Baltimore is, I just have to drive through Philly, and I'm like, I don't feel so bad anymore. I'm just kidding. Philadelphia is kind of cool. It has all those neat places where Benjamin Franklin had sex. Ben Franklin actually was really into older chicks. And he lived to be 80, so it meant he was having sex with 100-year-olds or dead people. I don't know. But he set a standard for hundreds of years of additional American statesmen with their freaky sex lives. Clinton, Harding, LBJ, Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland's famous for 2 things: surfing 2 non-consecutive presidential terms and inventing the Cleveland steamer.
I know it's dirty.
All right, well, so I made it here safely, and I'm appreciative of that, and it's good to be back at TheBearTavern again.
Pandering!
Of all the places I've done stand-up comedy, TheBearTavern is among the top 2 or 3. Although I've seen, for decades I've been watching stand-up comedy on television, and the brick wall is supposed to be behind me, not beside me. So, Kevin, I appreciate it. Next year you could fix that.
Okay.
So I was driving up here, and like most people, I was texting the entire time. Which I understand is illegal. Yeah, it makes sense that it's illegal. It's distracting. But how come that's illegal, but it's still like not illegal to like two-fist a Big Mac while driving? Because that's a whole lot more distracting. Because you got like the sauce dripping down your hands, and you're trying to lick it off, and then invariably you're going to drop a tomato in your lap, and then you're going to have to like reach down with your face and try to pick it up because you got your hands full of Big Mac. So actually, I got pulled over for texting a couple months ago. And they pulled me over, and it was like, you were texting while driving. And I was like, no, it wasn't. I was taking pictures of my crotch. Luckily, I had like plenty of evidence. I was like, here I am in jeans, there I am in like shorts, khaki pants. Wait, that's not me. Whose crotch is that? So he let me off. And next week will be our 3-month anniversary. So last time, everybody seemed to appreciate a little story I told about the War of 1812 and its relationship to penises. So I thought I would, this time, tell a story about the Spanish-American War and vaginas.
Equal time.
President McKinley was a pussy. Sorry, it was.
End of joke.
That's the end of the joke. That's all. It was a really short war. It was like 4 months long.
At least we got a whole war.
Actually, the Spanish, it was just like a complete ass kicking, and like malaria killed more Americans than Spanish bullets. So it was just complete. Kevin States put up more of a fight than that. What's up with that?
That's before the chloroform. Oh, I thought it was about fruit.
Alright, so that was a short historical joke. You want to hear another short historical joke?
Yes.
Napoleon. I'm just kidding. He wasn't really that short. Actually, he really wasn't. It turns out that Napoleon, apparently in French and in English, the inches were different sizes. English inches were shorter than French inches. So if you said his height in English inches, it seemed much shorter than in the French. Which tells you that the English had really short penises compared to the French. So apparently it's a long time the English had this problem. They spent the entire Middle Ages trying to convince everybody how long their bows were. My Agincourt fans will get that. So I learned all this stuff because everybody's like, "Oh, you're so smart." My students are like, "How do you know all this stuff, Mister?" I'll tell you my real name later. How do you all know all this stuff, Mr. Lothar? Mr. Lothar. And I'll tell them, I read lots of books, and I took courses in college, and I have degrees in history, and really I just read a lot of Wikipedia. The problem is Wikipedia is like an addiction to me, and I read it, and you really shouldn't read it at work, because there are terrible things on Wikipedia, and I will be reading about stuff, and like also, oh, that's really interesting, I have to click this link. And then I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, I have to click this link too. And then I click this link too, and the next thing I know, I'm looking at a picture a woman with a dude's balls in her mouth. Honestly, that really happened to me at work. I was reading about the Tea Party. Because I like reading about hypocritical douchebags. And, you know, it's like, you know, the Tea Party, founded in so-and-so, by so-and-so, their detractors, you know, condescendingly refer to them teabaggers. And I'm like, okay, I gotta click. How can you not click on that link? You know? I was like, no, Lothar, don't do it. But I must, it's Wikipedia. And I was like, okay, I'm clicking on it. Oh, balls in the mouth. But the best part, I mean, the reason why there are pictures of balls in the mouth on Wikipedia is because it's user created. Like, everybody has the option of submitting their own information to Wikipedia, which is great because I don't know if you're aware of this, but Eddie Money won the Nobel Prize in 1986 because I have a Wikipedia account and I love Eddie Money. Alright. Okay, so here is the audience participation part of my set. So I'm going to need a volunteer, preferably a lovely lady
Gina.
of the female variety.
Gina. Gina.
Okay, Gina, that'll work. Okay, now you understand that you're going to be seen on the internet in front of about a dozen of BearTavern's followers, right? Okay, great. Okay.
Show us your brains!
Okay, I have a riddle to tell you, Gina. Okay. What do dessert and my hands have in common? They both go right to your ass. Thank you, Gina. You've been lovely.
Okay. Bad touch. Sorry, volunteer. I was hoping it was whipped cream, but
Give us our long ship.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I'm a teacher, and one of the one of the great things about being a teacher is teaching new things to the kids. Like, for example, did you know Martin Luther King's father is Martin Luther, the founder of Lutheranism? But I mostly love, like, teaching them new words, so I have a lot of favorite words that I was going to just show you guys, and hopefully you appreciate them as much as I do. Okay. This is not comic books. Everybody's been asking me if it's comic books. All the comic books are at home, safely sealed in Mylar bags in a safe in my basement, under lock and key. Okay, so funny words that I appreciate. Masticate. I'm not sure what it means, but it sounds pretty self-explanatory. Analog.
Alright, special kind of log.
The penal system.
The best system.
Many of my students have been through the penal system.
Oh, that's sad.
Angina. That's all I've said. Any plumbers here?
Yep. My husband.
Ball cock. It's part of a toilet, so it's toilet humor. Uvula. Because it kind of looks like vulva. cuticle. It's like some really cute testicles. Like on a hamster or something. My favorite dog breed, Shih Tzu.
It's a dog. Sounds nice.
It sounds like a zoo where all the animals are gone, but you know they were in the cages.
That's it. Remember?
Okay, so everybody was asking me for historical humor tonight, so I'm going to finish off with a couple of quotes about the Founding Fathers that I've been reading and learning about lately. This first one is by Elbridge Gerry, who was one of the Founding Fathers. He is the guy who invented gerrymandering, so when it comes to political corruption, he's the guy to talk about. In the Continental Congress, he was very critical of having a professional standing army. And he said of a standing army, is like an erection. It is an excellent assurance of domestic tranquility, but a dangerous temptation to foreign adventure. I love George Washington. I've learned a lot about him. I was reading about him in his biography this year. And I read this quote that was written by one of his young female admirers. And she said of General Washington, he throws off the hero and takes on the chatty, agreeable companion. He can be downright impudent at times. Such impudence, Fanny, as you and I like.
Fanny. Was her name Monica?
It's like it came right out of a Jane Austen novel. My favorite quote was by John Jay, who in addition to having two first names was also first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And he was referring to his friend Gouverneur Morris. Gouverneur Morris was notable for having lost his leg in a carriage accident and having a peg leg. So in addition to having the peg leg, he walked with a cane. It gave him quite of a strut, which the ladies apparently admired. And apparently he was quite a cock blocker in his time, because John Jay said of Gouverneur's leg has been a tax on my heart. I am almost tempted to wish he had lost something else. Okay, so there's your history lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.